guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week I wanted to pick up from where I left off last week. And I know that I said to start your mental wellness journey, you're gonna have to do a couple things to get yourself in line to the beginning of your just mental wellness journey. And in order to do that, one of the points that I discussed was to just form connections and work on your relationships. So this is why I wanted to cover the topic of relationships in isolation. Now that we're coming up to our third lockdown, it's important for us to just discuss that and analyze how we could improve our relationships. Because as much as we appreciate all the time that we're getting with our loved ones and friends and family, we're also in a time of crisis and uncertainty. And uncertainty is the root of creating anxiety. It's the first thing that really gives you anxiety and issues. So if you're not really feeling yourself and you're under a bit of trauma and you're a little bit anxious, of course that's going to be projected and reflected in the people closest to you, which is usually your partner or just anyone that's really spending a lot of time with you in your face. So if you haven't been to my page before, welcome. I'm Hamasa and I look at personal development as well as mental and emotional well-being on this page. So please subscribe to my channel so that you're up to date with my content. As much as trauma and crisis emphasizes our relationships with the people closest to us and kind of pulls us together, it also highlights underlying issues that we've had in our relationships before that kind of brushed over. But now that we have so much time with each other and so much FaceTime and so much thinking time, those cracks are beginning to show or just beginning to really nag at us. And that's why it's important for us to do or be aware of ourselves a little more so while we're stuck at home again for the third time, to just make sure that the communication is clear, that boundaries are set, and so that your relationship could really be resilient and pull through the test of time. Because as we know, there's a lot of abuse on the rise, as well as a lot of divorce. And, people who are together, they're struggling with having so much time with each other. Because naturally couples, when in any other circumstances live, they may be living together, but they have work outside of the house that gets them away from their partners. Whereas now, they're stuck at home on top of each other 24/7. And for those couples who are not together, living together, and that their relationships somehow turned into a long distance relationship, are also facing their own types of issues. So that's why it's important to have a certain, the way you communicate with your partner is very important. So key thing would be to avoid the four horsemen of the relationship downfall, which I mentioned in my video of the 4 relationship killers. I'll link that for you guys. So it's important not to criticize, not to get very defensive, and just things like that to be aware of, so that you could just make life easier for yourself and your partner at home. So my first tip for you guys would be the way you communicate. Now, if you're living together and you have a problem with something, and this applies to people who are also not living together and they're in virtual relationships. Whenever communication, of course, is key, but the way you communicate is also very important. So whenever you have an issue or something that's bothering you that you would like to discuss, the best way to put that forward to avoid an argument is to take ownership of your feelings and responsibility for what you're saying. So instead of saying to your partner, you're doing this and this is what's bothering me, because straight away you're on the attack, you're on the offense, so you're pointing the finger at them. It's best to say that I feel this way when you do da-da-da-da-da, or your actions in return make me feel this way, and I know you may not mean it, or this may not be your intention, but the way I end up feeling, or how I feel about the situation, how I look at it, is then what's bothering me. So take ownership, take responsibility of what you have to say. That every time you communicate does not mean that it's an attack on them. It just means that you're expressing things that are bothering you, and you need to take responsibility for that. By putting your argument forward in that way, you're already letting them know that this isn't an attack on their character. It's just you communicating things that are really bothering you. So there's nothing wrong with that. So just be aware of how you communicate. My second point would be that as much as you would want to nag and talk about something for a long time, that's not healthy. And if you're spending so much time at home with each other, you don't want the environment to turn into like a battleground. So it's important to just be aware to put only about 20 minutes, half an hour aside a day to discuss things that may be bothering you or your feelings, and vice versa for your partner. And then after that, like, that chapter's closed, that topic is done, and you guys can go about your normal day. So make sure that you don't spend the whole day just mopping around or dwelling on something that was said or wasn't said. So allocate a time limit, preferably 20 minutes to half an hour, and then cut it off at that. The next thing would be to have a set of rules, and this is important for people who are more in a sort of long distance kind of relationship, because communication for you guys is even more so critical, because that's the only thing you have. You can't fulfill the physical and affection and intimacy side of the relationship, which makes you feel closer and brings you together. So if you can't fulfill that, your communication has to be that much more reassuring and that much more clearer and very open. Just be able to tell each other things openly and not having to worry about the repercussions of discussing an issue. So rules, this is why rules are important for both sets of the types of relationships, because you could just clearly say, look, these are the things that I'm not cool with, so can we please be wary of that? And same with your partner. That way you guys are managing each other's expectations in the relationship a lot better, because you know the likes and dislikes, and so does your partner. So if you want things to work and keep it going and make sure that everybody's happy, is just respecting each other's boundaries and each other's rules. So it's important to be able to discuss that and set them out so that you're both aware of where you stand, because you could have one certain type of expectation and your partner's on a completely different page, and that's not really going to work. That's where the arguments occur. My next tip for you guys would be to just try and spend some time apart if you're stuck at home with each other. So, have some sort of signal or an indication that you just want a little bit alone time. So if it means going for a walk by yourself, if it means exercising, if it means just putting your headphones in and just letting your partner know that you're in your own zone and you just need some space. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that you don't like your partner anymore or vice versa. It just means that you need a little bit of alone time to recoup and reset and get your head cleared. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So just make sure that you do also put a little bit of time aside each day for yourself to do whatever it is that you want, or maybe not do anything, but just don't do anything by yourself, not with your partner. Next tip is to make sure that you also keep your communications active and also engage in just talking and reaching out to people outside of your relationship. So you have someone else to discuss things with, you have someone to turn to, you can chit chat, you can distract yourself with. And same with your partner. Make sure that they also have their friends or family members, someone else that they can reach out to and discuss things and just be themselves aside from you. Because then you have something else to talk about. You can come back and tell each other, like, fill each other in on the things that you discussed with your friends or whatever. Because what happens is your routines become very similar, because your natural routine is now at the window. So there is not much for you guys to talk about or fill each other in on. So when you have some time away with your other friends, that gives you a little bit of space to miss each other and to come back and be excited to fill each other in on what's been happening. Of course, a major factor in most relationships right now is financial conflict and just difficulties facing financial issues. So in times of crisis, the best thing to do, and something that some couples may argue about, is that to just make sure that you guys take each day as it comes, because everything is so unpredictable out there. You can't really plan too far ahead. So you just need to reach a compromise and understand that we're going to take each day as it comes, not plan ahead and anticipate the future too much, because we don't know which way this is going to go. So there's no point putting that extra stress on the relationship. So it's important to find some sort of common ground to agree that we're just going to take each day, each week as it comes, and deal with one thing at a time. My last piece of advice for you guys would be to just try and pick your battles. I know it's really easy to fall into this nagging motion and just trying to like point out everything, but you know, we are dealing with a lot right now, and the more you can make it bearable and easy for your partner, the better it is, and vice versa. So, really try and pick your battles. At the end of the day, you know that your partner's intentions are good towards you and your intentions are good towards them. So, if you could avoid confrontation most times, try and do so. I really hope that you guys found this video a little bit helpful with the tips. All sorts of relationships are put under strain, so we just have to stay resilient and try and be aware of ourselves and try and make life easier for everybody around us. And just manage our own expectations, because we're the only ones that could really fulfill them. So please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like and comment on this video, and I'll see you guys again here next week. Thanks so much for watching. Mwah.